I just wanted to make sure that you listeners are listening to the Drapedomaniac podcast on IYAPOYAPA.com. You are, right?
Peace, family, and welcome to this edition of the Drapedomaniac podcast. This is IYAPO YAPA, the HDIC, that is the head Drapedomaniac in charge. And I'm here with my lovely wife, Angela.
What's up?
And we're here, as always, to have conversation on how to get off this plantation. Well, today is going to be a little bit different. Today we're going to have a special guest, and Angela will pretty much be in control of the podcast, and I'm going to just pass it over to her and to introduce the special guest for today.
All right, thank you so much. So today we are going to do a Q&A, a question and answer session with an author. Now, in our Black Writers group, we have a Writer of the Week each week, and we do a Q&A with them. Usually the person will actually write the answers down because it is a writing group. But today we're going to actually talk to the author. The author is someone who has written a book that I have not read, so it's going to be a spoiler-free interview about their work and about them as an author. We'll start off talking about them as an author and then probably get a little bit more into their work. And the author is someone that I'm very close to. And if you listen to this podcast, then you have heard this person's voice before, because that author is our very own IYAPO YAPA.
Me? Oh, this is so unexpected.
It is such a surprise.
I know, it's such an honor. I never thought that we'd be discussing my book when we were talking about it.
All right. So, what the question that I usually start with is just for you to get a chance to introduce yourself. So introduce you and give us a little bit of your backstory. You know, as writers, a lot of times characters will have backstories that never show up in the work, but the author will be aware of who the character is. So give us your backstory and any fun facts or unexpected twists in your personal journey. You know how a book will sometimes have twisted turns or something fun. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm IYAPO YAPA. My name is actually an acronym. I don't, because I say that on my videos, but I never say it on the podcast. And my name is actually an acronym for if you aren't pissed off, you aren't paying attention. That's where IYAPO YAPA comes from. And I know everybody says this, but there's not a lot to tell. I'm a writer, a cartoonist, and I love composing music. But I worked actively doing cartoons and illustrations for a long time, and anybody that knew me always thought that I wanted to be a cartoonist because that's what I always did. But really, my goal, my dream is to always be a writer. I like the power of being able to write, but that actually isn't about me. That would probably be coming in another question.
No, you can say whatever.
Yeah,
I'm flexible.
Yeah, as far as I go, my journey, I wasn't always as you see me now. I wasn't always what you call woke or conscious. I started out in my teen years. I started out from like 17 on as a conservative Republican, only one in my family, and I had a big family. I have 8 siblings. Me makes 9 children, and my father and mother, and I was the only one that somehow managed to become a conservative Republican. And eventually, I'm gonna make a really long story really short. after about 30 years in that mess, I started waking up to what was really going on around me. I knew that, and this is the sad part, is that I knew that the Republican Party was a racist party even while I was in it.
Hmm.
Those who say that it's not is, well, it was the party of Lincoln. They freed the slaves, blah blah blah. Yeah, that may have been true at one time, but it's always nuanced as far as I'm concerned, because where I stand now, white people never gave a crap about black people.
Right, and
Never.
the Democratic Party is racist, and a lot of us don't
Right.
understand that.
Right,
So.
a bunch of Dixiecrats, and now basically it's the same party, or the same, or two wings on the same bird, or two sides of the same coin, as all the cliches go. But I don't belong to either party. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I am pro-black. And black mixed with black, cut me in half, and all you're going to get is black. So that's it. So that's what that is. And as I started writing, I'll even take this back to my art. For the 40 some odd years, I was doing cartooning and art, even when I was doing my own comic books and all that. All my characters were white.
Mm-hmm.
All my main characters, all my major characters were white. And when I started drawing black people, which now I just almost exclusively draw black people, unless I have to draw a white person in the frame for some reason, because they exist on Earth. But I found that I had to literally teach myself to draw black people. That's how ingrained that was, and that's how long I drew white people. I had to teach myself.
But people are people. If you were drawing white people, I mean, that's people.
But we look different.
Oh.
We look different. The way our hairstyles are, the way our noses are, lips, even our body types and so on are different.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me some time to learn how to draw black people and feel comfortable with it. Now I feel perfectly comfortable with it, because I don't draw white people anymore. Like I said, unless I feel like I have to. The same thing is true for my writing. Now, melanin always was what it was, but I was always writing. And
for people who don't know, Melanin is your first novel. But keep on.
But I had been published before. It was in a small press, but it was oddly enough a book called Our Blackness, and it was sci-fi speculative fiction by black writers.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it was a short story that you published?
Yeah, a few short stories.
Really?
They were published by a company called Anubis Press, and you probably will never find that book. It was a very small press and a small print run.
I didn't even know that. Do you have a copy of the book, or
I don't even have a copy
family?
anymore. I don't know. My father may have a copy, because he's one of the ones that keeps everything I do. Because he always loved my work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just printed in the small press, and
That's a fun fact.
that's my first time being published. But some of the stories from that I actually retrofitted to go in Paradigm Void and rework.
And Paradigm Void is your second book,
It's
which is
my
a
second
collection
book,
of short
is
stories.
Collection of short stories.
Mhm.
And I found that I had to actually do rewrites on them, because they mostly focused around white people. I wasn't coming into consciousness when I was writing them and got published, even in Our Blackness. It was more about the fact that the authors were black than the subject matter itself being black. And so I had to retrofit a couple, because there's only like 2 stories from it that were in our darkness. It's called Our Darkness. I think I might have said Our Blackness.
I think you did, but it's okay.
And now when I write, I exclusively write to our people and for our people. I couldn't care less in this life if no white person ever read a single letter of what I write, because it's not for them anyway. I write for our people, and everything's going to come from that kind of a slant, because I feel that as Black people, we need to take control of our own narrative. So that's I hope that answers that question.
Yeah, I think that, well, I definitely got something I didn't know, and I thought I knew. I think I know everything. And I knew that you were very creative when I first met you on YouTube, because unlike other people who were doing similar type of content, talking about things related to Black folks and our experience and our freedom and our liberation, at the beginning of your videos, there would be like a little short skit, a little short film, which I just really found amazing. Like, I think you're not like a comedian as well as a storyteller. And during Kwanzaa, when we had the Kuumba Day with the creativity, I was really it was really interesting to watch. Like, other people were reading poetry or reading whatever, but I think you played the harmonica, I think you played the guitar, you were singing a song you had composed, you were reading stuff you had written. I mean, we didn't do a show and tell of cartooning, but I know you're a very creative person. And when we first started getting to know each other, I knew that you had a background in cartooning, and you had asked if I would mind reading, something that you had written. Uh-huh. And I thought that it was a piece that you're working on the history of Black folks in cartooning. Mm-hmm. So I was very surprised when it came, and it was melanin, and it was fiction. That was just totally not what I was expecting, even at that time. And this was maybe about 3 or 5 years ago. Uh-huh. I got to read, maybe a few chapters, and I've gathered over time that a couple chapters that you've sent it around to other people as mm-hmm. well. And I was just really, I thought it was very well written. I loved the concept, and I wanted to know more. So, what is melanin? Like, what is melanin about? Tell us more, or tell them more, because they don't even know what it's about. I've got little snips and snappets here.
Well, melanin, without trying to do this without any spoilers.
Yes, it has. Wait, hold on. So it has to be spoiler free, because even though it's in the editorial process, I have not read it, but right. Sometimes my husband makes me listen to him talk about it.
But. No, I'll tell you where it came from. The premise of it came from decades and decades ago. I watched a movie called White Man's Burden with John Travolta and I was going to say Sidney Poitier, but it was
some white people. Go on.
No, this is Harry Belafonte.
Oh, Harry Belafonte. Yeah. Is he biracial?
He's biracial, I think. Oh. But Harry Belafonte, John Travolta, and the story was about a world. It's like an alternate world where white people were all on the top, or all on the bottom, and Black people were on the top, mm-hmm. and that's the way it had always been. And as I watched the movie, I got to the end of it, and I had been so interested in watching it. When mm-hmm. I finally watched it, at the end of it, it was like one of the most disappointing things I'd ever seen, because literally all they did was flip the roles. Mm-hmm. They made the white people Black, and they made the Black people white, and that was literally it.
But people are people. So white people on top, Black people on top. What's the difference?
Yeah, but if you're in a society that's that way and has always been that way, it's literally just a flip of colors.
Right. That's because people are people. So there's no difference between white skin and Black skin. That's just
right. Which I don't believe that.
Oh, I don't believe that either. But I want you to talk about that.
What I was trying to get at was, my problem with the movie was, I was like, well, what would it be like? And this is what I had expected to see, but it didn't happen. I was like, well, what would it be like if you had always been on the top and someone else had always been on the bottom, and then something happened, then now you're like totally on the bottom and they're totally at the top. And based upon the type of people you are, how do you deal with that? Because I have this belief that is backed up with history, that when black people get out from under white people, I mean, you're never really out from under, but you know what I'm saying. When black people, like in the building of some place like Rosewood or Black Wall Street, name a couple of the more famous, but when you get out from under white people enough to do your thing, you don't go looking for them. You don't go trying to get revenge. You don't get. We don't be thinking about them. But their problem is that they're not like us, and we think that they're like them because they know. This is kind of off on a tangent, but it's because they know that were the situation reversed and we had enslaved them, raped them, did everything to them that they've done and continue to do to our people. If they were to get out from under us, the streets would be flooded with blood.
With our blood. With our
blood. They know this. But and what they do is they project that onto us as if that's what we would do. But you have things like, these different rebellions where,
Haiti?
Like Haiti, and I'm thinking particular of Nat Turner, where they're like, they massacred families and killed children and so on. That's in the midst of a rebellion, and that's the same stuff that you do. I'm not saying that for two wrongs make a right, but this is the same stuff that you do, and your people do it. They're revolutionaries and heroes, and you build statues to them and sing songs about them. Our people do it, and we're vandals and thugs or whatever, savages or whatever.
And furthermore, whatever I do to get my freedom is justified.
Exactly.
What you do to keep me enslaved is not justified.
Exactly.
So 100%. For every one of them that got killed by Nat Turner, how many of us have been killed by them? I mean, because I think Nat Turner, it was like less than 50. It was like some small numbers. Shoot, they've been massacring us and rebelling, but anyway.
That's
So is that what melanin is about?
Well, I'm working toward that. Anyway, that's what they think of us, and it just doesn't bear out though, because once Haiti was free, they didn't go out looking to kill anybody else. They're trying to rebuild their country. Once black people kind of sorta got a boot off our neck, we didn't go try to slaughter and massacre people. We went and got to our own and tried to build. Wasn't thinking about them. So the fear that they have is in their own mind and in their own consciousness. Melanin came about because I was like, so what would happen if some way this system reversed? But it's deeper than reversing, because without a spoiler, and I don't mind saying because it's the premise of the book. In melanin, there's a radioactive cataclysm. It doesn't. It's not like this apocalyptic where everything is bombed out and all that stuff. Everything looks the same as right now. Just like the world is irradiated right now because of Fukushima, but everything for the most part looks the same. You see mutations in that. But if I look out the window, you can't really tell the world's been irradiated. You see your buildings and, society's still going on like it's going on. That's the world of melanin. It has this radiation, but the radiation causes a new form of melanoma. But this melanoma only affects white people. It only affects people. Well, I was about to give away a spoiler. But this predominantly only affects white people. And the only solution that they finally come to in the book is that you have to become phenotypically black. And specifically, like East African black, and the book explains why that happens. but you have to become a black person, not a tan white person. You have to undergo this procedure that makes you black. And when you get this procedure, it changes you genetically, where your nose gets wider, your lips get bigger, your hair texture changes to, to our hair texture, and so on. So your pineal gland starts to decalcify everything. You become black, and that is the only way to live if you want to live.
Okay.
And as you know, there's a whole lot more that goes on in the story than that.
Yeah.
But that's the
premise.
That's the premise of the
that's
story.
kind of the world we find ourselves in.
And it plays off of what I found disappointing about White Man's Burden. It's like, okay, and this isn't giving anything away, but okay, now you have these white people who are becoming black, and just like the saying goes, black people have always had to be, 3 times smarter or 4 times smarter, 4 times better, 4 times this and 4 times that.
You got to do twice as much to get half as far.
Right. And so that's what we have typically done historically. So what happens now that I'm a white guy, right? And so what happens now that I'm black and I can no longer get my mediocrity can no longer be served by me just being white. And so now you have all these white people who are now black. And they don't have the skill sets of people who were already black, who were already far and away better than them. That's not what the whole story is about. That's just a little tiny component of it.
The skill set, and work ethic.
Right. And I just go into those kind of ideas.
Okay. So it's an opportunity to kind of explore some ideas, and you'll laugh, you'll cry. So, okay. What is your favorite genre to read? So Melanin, we're figuring that is Black speculative fiction, Afrofuturism.
Afrofuturism.
We read an essay on Afrofuturism, and I was kind of like iffy about that term.
Me too, because a white person coined it, so I'm still trying to find something different to call it.
But it's just, it is what it is. It's melanin.
Right.
Okay. So, but what is your favorite genre to read? You don't read a lot of Afrofuturism or Black speculative fiction.
I'm starting to read more, but I especially like reading speculative fiction, which is pretty much science fiction. I'm a big fan of Robert Silverberg. He's white. All these guys I'm about to name are white. Robert Silverberg, Isaac Asimov, and well, there's one by Ricky Rucker, I think. That I read, The Masters of Space and Time. Rudy Rucker, Masters of Space and Time. That was kind of a one-off for me, but
was that one science fiction?
It was science fiction.
Okay, so it's all in the genre of science fiction.
Yeah, all in the genre of science fiction, and I'm not a big fantasy person.
Okay. So has the genre that you enjoy reading changed over time, or have you always been a science fiction person? Sci-fi.
It has changed. I'm presently reading a book called Plague Birds. And I'm also reading The Brothers Karamazov. That's Dostoevsky's book. I can't really pronounce his name.
That's okay. We can
The Brothers Karamazov is slow. It's not sci-fi. It's more historical fiction. Because there are social ideas in the book that I've heard people talk about, the social ideas and social implications in the book, and I'm interested in reading it for that reason. And that's kind of it's not a hard read. It's interesting. It's just not what I usually read. Plague Birds, another white author. I can't remember his name offhand, but that one intrigues me too. And that's the book that I was reading. And I said that in a way his prose is so poetic that it was getting in the way of the story. But when I went on to this next chapter, that kind of calmed down. It's like this first part of it where it was just like everything was just so poetic.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I like I said, the beauty of his prose was getting in the way of me, like really reading, understanding the book. It was a distraction.
Okay. So, who is your favorite author?
My favorite is Robert Silverberg.
Okay. Okay. So we talked earlier, and you mentioned that your writing had been published in a collection of short stories by Black authors.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been published? Has your writing been published anywhere else?
No, for the most part, my cartoons have been published.
Mm-hmm.
In different places, mostly newspapers and magazines, and mostly like Ohio based, like Cleveland Plain Dealer, Columbus Dispatch, Cincinnati Enquirer, and so on.
So if we were to like do a Google search or a search of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, would we be able to like locate some of your work online?
If they have archives, then you definitely would.
Oh, okay.
So in my arts, and I was especially in there when I was doing the comic book Power Storm, and Power Storm was kind of a unique take because it was a superhero comic book, but it was free, and it was supposed to have been. And this is actually an interesting story because it was made to be this comic book that would be free, and it would be an ongoing comic book like anything like Spider-Man, Superman, whatever. And the cast was all white. The secondary cast was black. But in the book, it also dealt with social issues and things that teenagers dealt with because it was geared toward high school students. And the reason it was free, it was so that anyone could get it. If someone was homeless or whatever, they could still get it. Or a runaway, or having problems with addiction, or needed help with going to college. And in the back of it, it had like all this information, helpline information, different places you could call for whatever, whether something pertained to college or where something pertained to suicide prevention. And I got one issue out, and I was the freaking talk of Ohio when that issue was getting ready to come out. A lot of people knew about it. I was getting coverage on radio. I was on a few television shows. I was on and all through the newspapers in the different areas. And when I started being put in the newspapers, now the radio I didn't mind too much.
And television.
And the television I was a little bit worried about, but I was like, it depends on who sees. But the newspapers, this was back when people read newspapers, and I literally was begging them not to put my picture in the paper. Because I was like, if you put my picture in the paper, it'll kill the project. And all of them insisted that my picture be in the paper, except for this one newspaper called The Advocate. And The Advocate was a black paper. And they understood where I was coming from.
Where were you coming from? That
as soon as they see this black face, it's going to kill the project.
Now, what I don't understand, I've heard you tell this story before. Before you go on to what happened. You're like, it was the talk of the town. Everyone was so. Right. So it's because they hadn't seen a comic strip before, or what was so exciting about it? What was so?
They had seen artwork from the comic book. They had seen what the premise of the comic book was. They knew what the premise was, and it would be in the schools and all this. And all these schools had already accepted it, and so on.
So
but
were
they
they
hadn't
ordering?
Seen my black.
Were the schools ordering advanced copies?
Yes.
Okay.
But they hadn't seen me, and I was very careful that they didn't see me. And then the newspaper stories started coming out, and magically, the schools weren't really excited about it anymore, and they had been the ones contacting me. I wasn't contacting them. They were contacting me, and this was mostly through word of mouth. And the radio really gave it a big boost. And when I did contact people, I would portray myself as an employee of the company. It was called New Generation Media at that time. And I was, they always thought I was the help. They didn't know that I was the owner. But man, when they found that out, it killed it, just like I said it would, and just like I knew it would. Killed it. I got the one issue out, and there was this is how long ago this was. Every issue had a prize the student could win or something, and the prize in this one was a Nintendo 64. That's how long ago that was.
I guess gamers would know that reference.
Yeah, it's old, and we got we got a lot of response from that. A lot of young people entered, and somebody won the prize, and we took them their prize and so on. And it was supposed to be like that every month, and it wouldn't be like some punk prize like some headphones or some crap. We were planning on it would be like a Nintendo 64 or some other kind of game system, high-end game system. And as time went by, it was like that the plan was it really be something that you probably couldn't afford on your own if you wanted to buy it. But it just did not happen because the material or because the project got killed as soon as they saw that black face and realized that I was the company. So that was my first welcome N-word to the world. I mean, I've been called N-word before that. But.
Oh, like your Negro wake-up call.
Yeah.
I feel like that was it. But
yeah,
you already knew. You said you didn't want your face to be published because you thought that if they saw that you were black, so it's not like you weren't aware or conscious.
Right, but it's just like I told you, I was still a conservative Republican, and I knew that the Conservative Party was racist. But I was still a member of that party because I agreed with the platform. For the most part.
So what did it wake
so
you up to? So what did that
Party.
Experience wake you up to? Because it sounded like you already knew.
It was a part of my process of fully waking up. It wasn't a full wake up call. It was a part of my process that helped to get me to where I am today. And now when I look back on it, it's just like all these different steps. And I think that's how a lot of people are I think that's how a lot of people are with a lot of different things. It's experience after experience after experience that starts to build them and shape them.
Definitely. And they say, sometimes people can have one traumatic experience that, has lasting effects. But I remember when I was in therapy, one of the things that I talked about with the therapist was that she said that there can be lots of mini traumas that can have a cumulative effect. So it makes sense to me. I had I don't know if it was a similar experience or not, but I used to have a storefront business that I purchased from a white woman. It never really took off. And a lot of people in that town were telling me to stop telling people and don't tell anybody that it's your business.
Right.
But from the way that I had been educated, from reading, books on business and small, like I felt like my face, I was the brand, I was the face of the product, and I wanted people to know that I was there, that I cared, that I was involved, that they were dealing with me, and I feel like I'm really personable. That's one. So I felt like it was all value added, but my store never really took off, and. So one theory is that it's when people realize that it was some people realized that it was a black person. And even in the context of that store, I remember I was new to that community and asking some of the black women who came in, I was looking for a nail tech at the time, a black nail tech.
Right.
And I remember one person in particular was like, why would you go? I would never go to a black nail tech. Why would you go to a black nail tech? I'm like, because I want to give my money to somebody black, and I want somebody black. Right. And they were just like,
Oh, I would never.
That actually, when I was talking about that, I was like, that was my first question.
Oh.
And I hadn't thought about it, and it just popped into my head. I was like, you know, that was a big deal to me. Did that happen? I put a lot of work and time into that comic book and the concept and everything, and then for it to just fall apart like that because of the color of my skin,
or because
and you know,
society's
because a bunch of bigots.
Perception.
Exactly. So.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting also in terms of the comic book because I didn't realize it had been published. So when we're talking about published works, when my mother was interviewed as the writer of the week, she mentioned being published in Unapologetically Pro-Black or in Up magazine, and so I was kind of surprised that you didn't even mention the self-published work, that, you know, like that type of.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been published in unapologetically Black magazine, Up magazine. I guess I didn't think about it because we produced the magazine. Which I mean, I produce Melanin, and that's going to be self-published. So yeah, I don't know why I didn't mention that, but both of us have done a lot of writing in that book. So.
In the magazine. And you can see, I have a blog, so I have other stuff that's, you know, self-published or it's out there in the world and accessible. But you can access some of IYAPO's writing on our website, doiamedia.com, DOEIA.media.com. No, not dot.
It's an acronym. She said after I said it because it stands for Descendants of Enslaved Africans in America. DOIA.
And it's DOEIAMEDIA.com. DOIAmedia.com. But you can find Unapologetically Pro-Black magazine on that platform, as well as a blog that you worked on. It's not a lot there. I did one episode of the blog.
Yeah, and it's a to me, even if I do say so myself, it's a very good magazine. It is. We need to go and do the second issue. Putting together a magazine is more than a notion, especially when you're the only two putting it together. Angela does a newsletter for, I know this is supposed to be about me, but she does a newsletter every week for the writers group, and that's is amazing. I started it out, but I couldn't keep up with it. But she's able to keep up with it, and each issue just gets better and better. So
it's probably 8 to 10 hours a week, which is a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah, but it's a labor of love. I enjoy doing it. So, and you know, I also feel a responsibility to do it because I feel like if the Black Writers Group is about supporting Black writers in their growth and development, then you know, I want to be accountable to support us in our growth and development. Okay, so what writing projects are you currently or would you like to be working on? So we know Melanin is a completed book in terms of the initial writing. It's been through how many rounds of editing?
It's in its fourth edit.
Okay.
And it's not because it was written badly.
No.
But when it's put out, we want it to be right.
Yeah.
And so, because I've read different books, and no matter what book I write or read, I don't care if it's Robert Silverberg. I'm always finding some kind of typos and stuff.
And it's been
that's
edited.
just the nature of the beast.
That's the nature of the beast.
But
it's a group. It's a collective effort.
Right.
So
Melanin is in its fourth edit. The book is roughly 500 pages.
And that's what I was going to say too. So it's kind of a lot too. It's not that it's just a lot to go through. Yeah, it's not a short book.
And then it's not War and Peace though. So Paradigm Void is a little more than 500 pages, I think, but it's a collection of short stories, so they're digestible. The longest.
I was just going to say, and Paradigm Void is with the the first is in the process
In
of
the
being
first
edited
edit.
the first time, slowly.
Yeah, the writing is complete. It's just being edited now. The longest story in Paradigm Void is over 100 pages.
Right.
The longest one, and that is the redemption of Maxine.
Sure, great.
Oh, brother, yeah.
Maxine. Just Miss Maxine.
Right. I'm surprised I can't remember her last name. Anyway, I started Paradigm Void like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you saw it. I saw those first couple chapters. I said a couple
You
chapters.
saw Melanin or Paradigm Void?
Melanin.
Oh, you just said you started Paradigm Void 4 years ago.
I started Paradigm Void 4 years ago.
Okay.
But I started Melanin 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When you first saw it, I sent Gwen B. a copy. I sent Tyranny, and that's African Esquire. I sent her the first couple chapters. They liked it, said they wanted to see more. You said you wanted to see more. And I really didn't do.
Was I the only one who edited it?
Yeah. And that's the thing. Typically, when I give someone something to read, I'm looking for what they think of the content.
Right.
As to whether to motivate me to keep going or not. Anyway, it took me 4 years to finish, but I didn't write on it for like 3 of those years.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got here, I finished the book. I was only on chapter 2, and I finished that book in a month.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Paradigm Void was kind of the same thing. It was like a couple stories in there, and then I finished it in another month.
Mm-hmm.
One of the cargo, I started that one since I've been here, and it's coming along well. I'm at my page 130,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking it kind of easy with it, but it's coming along. I do about 5 pages every day, sometimes more, never less.
Mm-hmm.
But that's moving right along.
There's a Paradigm Void too.
And I'm working on the second Paradigm Void, and I'm also working on like pecking at it. There's a book called The Eulogy of Man,
Mm-hmm.
and the other one is the history of Black people in cartoons and animation in America.
Okay.
So those are my projects.
Well, that seems like you have a handle on all of your projects, and you can name them off. Okay. And is there anyone with whom you would like to collaborate on a writing project or on a project?
Dead or alive?
Sure.
If I could collaborate on a project, I might want to collaborate with either Stephen Barnes or brother, I want to say his name now. I can't say it now. It'll come to me when I'm not thinking about it, and I'm gonna end up blurting it out as soon as Brandon Massey.
Okay. Oh, okay. So Stephen Barnes, have you read any of his work? Because you didn't mention his name.
I've seen his work.
Like he writes for television.
He writes for television, and I like his work.
Okay.
I wasn't too crazy about that Twilight Zone him and his wife did. Tanana Reed Duke.
And I love Tanana Reed Duke's
Yeah,
work.
but I wasn't crazy about that. But his work on the Outer Limits was
really good.
Yeah.
And so Stephen Massey Stephen Barnes is a Black writer, and Brandon Massey, I'm sorry, is that another Black writer?
Brandon Massey is the one who started out self-publishing,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's just full-out professional writer. And he's like constantly putting out books.
He started off self-publishing, but now he's with a major white house, or he's still self-publishes?
He went to a major house,
and
then I think he either went to Random House or
whatever,
Penguin, which is a division. But he was with them for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But then he went back to self-publishing.
Mm-hmm. So he started off self-publishing and went back to it. But I think that he's the one that you mentioned who kind of like, sort of like the way that I am with Walter Mosley. It seems like at some point, twice a year, something was getting published from him. like he's pretty. He
Right.
writes a lot.
Right. He's definitely prolific. And when he's not writing books, he's editing, like with Tanana Reeve do and so on. So. Yeah.
Oh wait, Brandon
Massey.
Brandon Massey works with Tanana Reeve do and
Yep.
Stephen Barnes. Oh, so they're kind of.
I don't know about Stephen Barnes, but it's Tanana Reeve do and another black woman horror writer.
Okay.
And that's it. He's more like suspense and horror.
Okay. So you told us what you were reading now. So do you prefer to read things on your tablet, which is how you seem to read things for the most part now, or print? Do you like to have?
I'd rather have a hard
Can
copy.
you hear the pages?
Yeah. I'd rather have a hard copy in my hand. I read on my tablet because I have to. But if I could get hold of the books I wanted in hard copy, I read them that way. And I despise reading on my phone. I don't know why. I don't know how people do it. I don't
I
read
can watch
on my,
whole movies on my phone.
Yeah, I don't get into that.
I read on my. I do type on my phone. I remember when we met and you saw that I worked on my phone. You like kept giving me like these keyboards and things to.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm cool.
Right. I don't know how you did that. You had a BlackBerry.
I had a BlackBerry, and the
Yeah,
screen was smaller on the BlackBerry than this thing.
And I had stubby fingers too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't do all that. I need a nice keyboard and a computer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely can't read off of them.
Because you even put your WhatsApp on the computer.
Right.
Okay. So we talked about do you have a writing process? What is it? What has been your approach to writing? What is your current approach to writing? Has it changed?
Yeah, my approach to writing
Or your
is
process?
that I almost never, unless something really hits me, like one of the stories in Paradigm Boy is based on something that I heard on YouTube about something that happened to a black man, and I was just so incensed by it that I sat down that morning and finished that entire story that evening.
Mm-hmm.
By that evening, that was the one Convicted. It's called Convicted, and I wrote that all the way through, and it wasn't short. I forget how many pages it was, but it wasn't short. It wasn't like super long.
Mm-hmm.
But my process tends to be that if I'm doing a novel, just like right now with And What of the Cargo, I'll do chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jump to chapter 10 because I know what's coming. I know what I'm excited about writing. And so I'll jump around in the book writing what I feel excited about, so it'll just flow out. And then I go back and connect them. I wrote Melanin that way. I was jumping around because if you remember, when Melanin, that's my computer. When Melanin, if you remember when Melanin was finished, I had all those cards, and I had to put it in the order that they were supposed to be to get all the chapters in order because they were just all discombobulated because I was jumping around and writing it and then connecting it all. And I'm doing the same with Cargo. And if I'm writing a short story, I'll write it through, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm really excited about this part. I want to go on and write it while I'm fired up about this part. And I'll jump and write that part and then go backward and connect it. So that's pretty much my process.
Okay.
I know where it's going, but I will say I don't always know what the characters are going to do.
Right. You've been surprised by your characters.
The one character in particular in Melanin, and I think you remember the day that I walked into the room, and I was just so surprised, and I was like, you know what so and so did?
Mm-hmm.
I had zero idea this character was going to do what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I was surprised by it. I stopped writing and I went in there and was telling you about it. I was like, I cannot believe he did that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably one of my most exciting moments as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
Even more exciting than finishing the book.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you write a character so well that it actually becomes a character and does something even you as the person writing it didn't expect him to do. My sister couldn't even grasp it. She's like, "How could you're the one writing it? How can that character do?"
Baby, you crack me up when you say stuff like when you write a character so well, like I'm just so talented.
No, it's not that. It's just that I wrote this character so well, and then I have a character that I wrote really well because I hate him so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hate, and you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Hate,
Ryan, is it Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan, and when it's going through the editorial process, and even when I edit, there's an entire section in one of the epilogues. Yeah, the book has more than one epilogue. In one of the epilogues, where I literally was calling this guy Ryan over and over and over, just because I got Ryan on the brain because I hate him so much.
Mm-hmm.
Hate.
Mm-hmm.
This guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that his story is one of the most fleshed out in the book, but yet he has no character arc
Mm-hmm.
to speak of.
Mm-hmm.
The other
So
character,
basically, the way he starts is more or less the way
he
ends.
finishes.
Mm-hmm.
But the one that came in, and I was just so surprised by what he did. He has like this huge character arc. Yeah. And see, that might be giving something away though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this character has like this huge arc. So I might actually take that part out because it's kind of a spoiler. But anyway.
So also in terms of process, I remember we had traveled and we got back from traveling, and I think this is, and you were like, well, I remember you saying I'm going to write 3 pages on melanin a day.
Right.
And then it was like, so the 3 pages, and then you'd be like, it's 200 pages, it's 250 pages, it's 300 pages. Like every day you were giving me a page report. And then some days I think that you were writing more, like you started, so that process started kind of like taking over, and
Right.
you it seemed to like, but that discipline of writing 3 pages a day, that's what I recall. But it seems to also have carried over into your writing process now with
Mm-hmm.
What of the Cargo, where you say at least 5 pages, but no less than
Right.
5 pages. And so I guess this is not specifically one of my questions, but it kind of speaks to me of when I met you, I feel like you wrote, but now I actually feel like you're a writer. And there's been a transformation for me because I guess you have these 2 books that are like finished and just waiting to get out into the world. And even with that, with the momentum of having finished 1 book, and then you have 2 books and you're still working on a 3rd book, it's like it's like every day you write. Every day I'm writing in. Every day I'm writing in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and it's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like, I'm living with a writer. Like you're a writer. Do you feel like different now? Because I know you've been writing all your life, off and on.
I feel totally different.
You feel totally different.
And with Cargo, I've actually scaled back some, because if you remember when I was doing Melanin, I'd get up in the morning and start writing, and I wouldn't stop writing until it was time to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped to eat,
Mm-hmm.
and that was almost every day.
But that's after it took over.
Yeah.
Before you had to push
Yeah, but
it
before
to make
that,
it go.
I had to
like
push it
this
to make
man.
it go. But you're right. And the same thing happened with Paradigm Boy,
Mm-hmm.
the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But with Cargo, I purposely am kind of stopping myself so that I'm not just spending all day long writing.
Mm. Now, why don't you want to spend all day writing?
Because I want to live.
But
I
mean,
want to do other things.
People, well, that's true.
And
a
when
lot
I
of
was
people,
when I was writing Moan, I wasn't doing anything else.
Right. Okay. What are some of the challenges that you're facing as a writer? I guess one of the things one challenge that you just mentioned would be, trying to scale back so that you can live more fully and not just spend all your time buried with your fingers tapping on the keyboard in your head and the monitor.
And another challenge is just like when we were discussing people making movies. It's like you can put in all this work and then people will read it and say, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Or it bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And you put all that work and your blood, sweat, and tears.
Mm-hmm.
It was like as I was writing with Sula, Ohio, and got to page 88 and shared that with my family. And
you halfway through it.
Yeah, and they weren't keen on it.
They weren't as excited about it as you were.
Right, and I was writing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
And as a tribute to my mother. So, there's a lot of people, as you know, you should just finish it for you. But to me, I don't have that kind of time.
Mm-hmm.
I want to write something just so that, okay, I'm satisfied with it, that I wrote it. When I could be spending time on Cargo or spending time on, the Second Paradigm Boy, that I have like 2 stories in that one in the works. Or working on Eulogy of Man.
Mm. Well, to me, I guess, and maybe, you're not Walter Mosley, but when I have read a variety of Walter Mosley's books, that's kind of what that Rasulullah, Ohio, it seemed like I could see, like, okay, there's Melanin, it's this type of book. Then there's Rasulullah O'Reilly, it's like a lighter murder mystery book.
O'Reilly?
Rasulullah, Ohio. I was trying to really focus on it before. Rasulullah, Ohio is more of like this fun, murder mystery does not sound fun, but this light murder mystery type piece. And then there's Eulogy of Man, which is this type of work. So I could see where you were developing projects or starting to work on projects that fit into different genres and explored, were all pro-Black, but fit into different genres. And I was sort of excited by Rasulullah because I like to read science fiction. I like to read, it's a certain type of writer that I like to read. I think probably now more so than the project or than the genre. So that's why I was excited by it.
I'll probably go back to it and do the thing where I just change all the names and stuff.
Right.
Because the Blanche White series, fired me up to write a murder mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing I'm really upset that I can't remember this woman's name. The redemption of redemption of Maxine.
It's not Maxine Shaw, because Maxine Shaw is a TV character.
No, whatever her name is, it's really ticking me off that I can't remember it. But in writing that, I was like, brother, I think I could write a mystery because of the way that story fits together, and it's a complex story, and I myself was surprised that I was able to pull that off because it's a really complex story. So it's speculative fiction, but that's like. That was pretty good, and that's what led me to also work on Rasulullah, Ohio.
Okay. So this is the last question. How long are we in? What time is it? How long have we been talking?
An hour.
Okay. So this is my final question, and I kind of think I know the answer. I think, but and then we'll. Does writing energize or exhaust you? Neither or both.
Both. I know. Yeah, you knew I was going to say that. I think most writers will say that.
Yeah. Well, one person a couple weeks ago, she said it's just all energy.
Yeah, for me, it's energizing while I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's writing is like making love. You have all kinds of energy while you're sweating. All kinds of energy. Huffing and puffing. Your red, black, you all kinds of energy while you do it, if you're doing it right. And then after you're done, all you want to do is go to sleep. Some of us. Depends on the person. I know I'm more wide awake, but still, just very relaxed and energy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not about the energy anymore. It's about the satisfaction of having written and knowing that you completed something that day. I used to always have this thing, and it didn't just pertain to writing, but a long time ago, I had promised myself, and I had gotten away from it. I said, when I go into tomorrow, I want to look back and see something that will prove that I was there yesterday.
When I go into tomorrow, I want to look back and see something that will prove that I was there yesterday.
Yeah.
IYAPO
IYAPO
YAPA. I've never heard. That's a new one for me.
Yeah.
But I like
That's
that.
mine.
That's an original.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't read it off a box of cereal. So y'all remember that's mine.
Okay.
You can use it, but
make sure you credit the author.
That's right.
So I'm really, really excited. It's interesting. This is my first time going through the process of publishing a book and getting a book ready to go. I know I have strong opinions about some things. It was really, really important to me that, the editing be done, and we were lucky to have someone who has just been really on it with the editing and back and forth, and that has really been a blessing because it's a big time investment. It's very time consuming. It's a lot of work, and I'm so excited. We're so excited for the work to be out in the world, Melanin by IYAPO YAPA, and for you all to be able to read it and give feedback.
I can't wait.
Yeah, we can't wait. So we're giving you this. It's not Melanin, but please, just keep your eyes and ears peeled and ready for Melanin. This is, when we're recording this conversation, it's March 25th. And I'm thinking, whoa, a couple months ago, I was thinking by March we would be, at publication.
Right.
But we're at the final edit, and then we'll have some people read it who have not read it. Like me, I'll be one of the beta readers, because I haven't read it. And then it'll be ready to go out. We should, keep your eyes open for information about pre-orders and other things that will be going on related to Melanin. It's going to rock your world. You've never read anything like it, even though I haven't read it. That's what my husband tells me. So he's just going to go with it.
You never read anything like it.
I've never read anything like it.
I can pretty much promise you that.
And when I started reading it, I was very excited. It's very well written. And I'm not just saying this because it's my husband, because when I read it, he was not my husband. When I read the early parts of it, that's actually part of how we ended up being married. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, he can write. He's a writer. I'm in love. So thank you so much for being here, and just a little teaser to whet your appetite and get you ready for the wonderfulness that is Melanin, that will be here before we know it. It'll be here soon. We can't wait. We're so excited for you to read it.
Okay, I guess that's it. I'll take it back and just say, if you made it all the way to the end, I just want to thank you for listening to this Drake the Maniac podcast. So,
and I've been reading about the Black Arts Movement and thinking about the Black Arts, because we're about to do an open mic in honor or in the tradition, and also name Pitch Black open mic of Pitch Black poetry. Any of y'all Pitch Black poets out there? So yeah, Pitch Black. So Black Arts. That's what I was trying to say. Black Arts and Black artists, for us, by us. Yes. Us. Black
Right.
us.
Okay, so now we're really gonna close it. This is IYAPO YAPA, the HDIC. That is the head drapetomaniac in charge, wishing you security, safety, and sanity through separation. And I'm here with my beautiful wife, Angela.
Peace.
And as always, until we see you again the same time next week, we will see you on the run.
And we'll see you in peace and happiness.
And on the run.
And thank you again for listening to the Drapetomaniac podcast. Tune in next week at doiamedia.com. DOEAIAMEDIA.com. And again, we'll catch you on the run. Peace.